I can guarantee that you've seen this show before. Bluey. It's a little dog, with her and her family, her little sister, her mom, and her dad. Seems like a very normal cartoon. And if you haven't seen it yourself, maybe you've seen a younger sibling, a cousin, a family member. Maybe you've seen a kid in public watching it, or you've seen some sort of crazy Reddit thread trying to dive into the deepness of it. But Bluey, this show perfectly explains why this YouTuber by the name of Steezy Kane could have saved YouTube and very likely still can. And if you don't know who Steezy Kane is, I'll give you the quick rundown. Steezy Kane, well, he started as a very comedic YouTuber, doing the traditional skits and pranks and all of that. And then he started diving into something a bit deeper. He started making things a bit more cinematic, involving some more storytelling, and then he started kind of feeling a bit wary of the name that he made for himself, because real name is Isaiah Shepherd. But Steezy Kane, that is the YouTuber I'm talking about. And he makes these amazing videos that I would say after a certain point they became so much deeper. I would say it really started with this one. It's called I Opened Up a Free Gas Station. Seems like a very typical YouTubery like video with the title and thumbnail. And you're thinking, oh, it's probably just like, Mr. Beast. He gives away like free stuff, probably giving away like, a bunch of gas, and it's just to get clicks and views. But you watch it and you realize it's so much deeper. It feels like a documentary in a sense. There's a story along with it. It's not yelling at you and telling you how to feel, but it's giving space and allowing you to feel what you feel. I feel like so often with YouTube and creating and art these days, well, people trying to make art instead of release content, they're screaming and telling you how to feel rather than just letting you feel it. Can you imagine if your friend had a family member that passed away, and then you just go over and you're like, "Oh, it's all good, man. Like, you they're you should feel good. They're in a better place now." Now that would be considered severely inappropriate. You'd be like, "That's kind of rude. Why would you say that? You can't tell someone how to feel about this." And begin to question, why do you think that's okay to do with YouTube? And it's not to take shots or hate on all these other people, but it's pretty obvious the public is getting tired of it. It's very addicting, but there's no substance to it. You don't feel full. You don't feel like you walked away with something much deeper. It's just like one versus, is that $1 billion? What? $1 billion futuristic tech. It's like all these crazy stunts and yelling at you and telling you exactly every single thing. You see a train. Oh, there's a train. Okay, you see a kid. There's a kid. Like, and it's just like you feel like everything is just being shoved down your throat and you're being force fed exactly every single thing that's happening. But this video, your space, and even this video, crazy title. I'm not gonna read that. Um, but I remember seeing this title and thumbnail. I'm like, I'm not gonna watch this. This is, he's going crazy. But I watched it like a couple years later, and I was like, wow, this video is so much deeper, and actually talks about, how is this okay? How is an app like this just public? People have really became made things like this so normalized, and it talked about such a deeper topic, how to make friends. Another video, and it seems very simple, just a picture of him and a simple title like how to make friends, and it feels like you're running down this rabbit hole and these spiraling ideas that make you have to think and turn every which way you look. And one of my favorite videos on the internet, how to get over a breakup, where Isaiah, he talks about how he had a recent breakup, and he explains emotions, how he's dealing with it, and at the end there's no more talking. It's just pure feeling, and you see these fireworks and are going in reverse. Everything is going in reverse. This happens on 4th of July, by the way, and everyone's walking in reverse, and you see all of this happening, and you're like, there has to be some sort of deep meaning behind it. There's music with it as well, and you're like, what's the purpose of it? I love how in the comments people go into they talk about how much they love it. They see there's something so much deeper a part of it. Pain is part of the process of who we are. People quoting him, and there's this one comment I want to see if I can find that truly, I think, represents. Okay, here it is. I love how the end symbolizes what we wish could happen, reversing inevitable events, however, without starting firework. You cannot have seen the illumination it created. Heartbreak is difficult, but it is necessary. Pain drives us to new limits. Keep going and push forward. Do not allow an individual to deter you from becoming something you never thought you could become. Great video, Steezy. And to me, even though that seems like such a simple comment, 65 likes, nothing too crazy on the higher end for this video. You're like, wow, that could have been the meaning of it, but who really knows? But there's so much, there's space for you to take away something. And that's my whole entire point of this video. Why is everything so, it feels like it has to be so direct, you every video feels like with YouTubers and it's super high retention editing, it's like this is the countdown and this is that, and it's like every single thing has to be explained. There's no room for you to think. We look at movies now, these big blockbuster movies that studios are trying to make, they do familiar stories because you know why, you don't really have to think, you don't have to really listen and try and break down the nuances of it. You don't have to walk out the theater and be like, man, that was kind of deep. I had some sort of feeling from it. Like I'm thinking about this and disagreeing with other people about like, oh no, this could have meant that, this could have meant that. And his whole YouTube channel, like his later on his videos, it gave room for that. It felt so real, so raw because in life every single thing isn't explained to you. It's not like you're walking down the street and it's not like a video game and all of a sudden it says a dog appeared. Like that's not how real life is. Real life, there are questions, there are things you have to think about, but often now with our attention spans it feels like every single second it needs to be occupied by something. There's no room to actually have like, you know what, let me think about that. Is this how I actually feel about this? What are my opinions on this? What does this lead me to believe in? And we see this with so many great shows. With Bluey, if you were to look at Blue, you think it's such a simple show, such a simple, endearing show. Looks like a little happy family. They're dancing. They have a stay-at-home dad and are able to play with him. But look at the titles of Bluey. They're some of the most basic and simple titles: Sleepy Time, Camping, Cricket, Baby Race. You can continue Hospital, Shadowlands, Barbecue. Like these are such simple titles. And I remember when I first put on the show for my younger siblings, and they were like, "Okay, this is actually really good." I just need to find a show for them, and I was just like, "Okay, this looks good." I was on Disney Plus, and what I realized is there's something so much deeper about the show. It was such a simple concept and they're playing, but he'd have these sometimes deep conversations in a way, like not even really talking, but showing through actions, through the voiceover, showing the emotions of the little dogs. And you're watching and you're like, wait a second, this is kind of deep. This is something so much more than it appears to be. This is not just a kids show, but I'm literally gaining emotional intelligence from it. I'm literally, my mind is being stretched there, and you can imagine why kids would like it because it's all fun and games. But so many adults, they talk about watching it. The amount of parents I've seen being like, wow, this is such a good show. It feels like an adult show, and actually the creator of it meant originally for it to be a show for adults. And you watch it and you take away something, and it's because it isn't force fed down your throat, but you have to notice. If you really pay attention, there's something so much deeper. And I think that's what we're lacking today in society, and there is a bit of growth in it. We kind of see it with, I was asking ChatGPT, like I think one of the best examples of this is the genre of indie music. Indie music is often characterized, it often has, there are different subgenres of it, but what I love about it is it can literally be a happy kind of tune playing behind it. The melody can be very happy, but the lyrics can be very sad, melancholy, or it can be a melancholy, um, like the instrumentals of it can be very melancholy, but the lyrics are quite happy and endearing. And it makes you have to think. You can't just be like, often with other genres, it's not to hate other genres, but pop, it's like, okay, it's the music sounds happy, they're singing about happy things. The song sounds sad, the song is sad. Rap, it's kind of the same thing, you know? You feel a certain way, it's talking about that certain way. The beat is super aggressive, the lyrics are super aggressive. It's kind of like this very direct thing. But I asked ChatGPT, um, it feels like indie music has kind of been growing. And yeah, it talks about, yeah, indie as a genre is rising again, but in a different way than before. It isn't mainstream dominant, but it's quietly booming. It isn't ruling like top 40 radio, different things like that, but people want music that feels human, emotional, and introspective. Fits perfectly with late night listening, studying, driving, all these different things. Can be moody, intimate, guitar based, but see how it talks about, it gives a feeling. It feels human, it feels emotional, all these different subgenres. And even though it's not as mainstream, and it can just described as people are burned out by hyper polished algorithm chasing music, it shows, look, film aesthetics, personal storytelling, faith and introspect and creative brands, imperfection, vulnerability, slower pacing, real emotion. It shows that there is this trend happening. I can literally see it with in culture. People look for something so real. That's why people record videos on their iPhones. So why I'm recording this, because people kind of have a connection. They're like, oh, if it's not recorded super high quality, then it's more real. Then it's more of an emotional thing. But that's not necessarily true. There's very high quality produced things that are emotional. Like, I'm gonna give another example. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You might or might not have heard of his shows by Don Glover. Don Glover, one of my favorite, like, kind of like filmmaker, artist, people. I think he's such an amazing guy. And it kind of has the outer appearance of the super action, spy show. Like, you're like, oh, this is gonna be super crazy. And watching it, you're like, it's a bit slower paced than I thought. The action sequences and stuff, it happens throughout it, but there's often long lengths of dialogue and space in between. You have to think. And as you watch it, I don't think this is a spoiler. This is I I don't think this should be considered a spoiler. But as you watch it, if you watch it from the perspective that it's more of a show about relationships, then it's so much deeper. You're like, wait a second, this is going into different things. And Don Glover talks about how a lot of the show, it's based off of the fact, like, based off of things that happen in his own relationship. Like, one of the episodes, spoiler alert, spoiler warning, it he kind of talks about, emotionally confiding in someone else, the spies, and they're not really in a marriage. It's, like, spies, they're set up, they're plants to be there, and emotionally confiding in someone else, and the woman gets mad about that. And it's just like, the man is like, I didn't do anything physical, I'm just emotionally confiding in her. And she gets mad about that because she's like, that is a form of cheating in a way. And often, lots of men do think it's just physical, but from a woman's perspective, it's very emotional. And you could think of it from the perspective of, Donald Glover. He's an actor, being in these different situations and being married now. It's like, how does that relate? Or even other people in their own lives. And you realize it's so much deeper, but it just has the premise of being, oh, it's an action and fighting show, but in reality, it's a deeper show about relationships. And I often think the best things in life, the best art, the most, maybe not best, but I think some of the most meaningful and emotionally translative things come from presenting as one thing, but then showing later as another. A great YouTuber does that, Anthony Poe. I'm not gonna bring up his thing. Sure I will. But he has these videos where you're like, oh, okay, you can look at the titles. I have a crazy plan. Oh, okay, maybe not that one. But I went undercover as an old man for 70 days and became famous. And it's like such a simple, you're like, whoa, this is gonna be like some sort of viral content. But you look at it and you get an emotional, like, connection to the guy, and you feel happy. Or I was kid with Crocs, and there's something so much deeper. I gathered 200 people named Anthony. Like, all these different things. Or can a Joe Sargent stop me from doom scrolling? And it becomes this adventure, this thing that you enjoy watching. How I started Timothy Chalamet look like contest, all these sort of things. It presents itself as one thing, but it's for a bit of a deeper meaning. And sometimes the deeper meaning is a bit simple, and other times it's given space and it grows. I think today content is so focused on being so hyper paced and relating and like directly addressing every single thing rather than being like, you know what, it just needs space. How about you think about this? And that does have the potential to become more popular. I'm seeing that with their kind of group of filmmakers, creator creator studios they call themselves now. I remember when it was just creator camp, and what do you call it? Not, oh my gosh, what is it? Maybe it's not called creator studios. I'm creator. I just remember being called creator camp. Oh no, it's called Camp Studios now. Um, let's search it up, guys. Wait a sec. Bring it down. Okay, Camp Studios, and they're really ushering the next generation of creators through these stories. And what I love about them is I feel like you have to explain every single thing, but storytelling allows space. Storytelling with emotion allows there to be room. And I know I think this need to explain every single detail and every single fine and minuscule thing. Now, I think it comes from so many people being not truthful, being disingenuous online, or having deeper ulterior motives, especially with a lot of these self-development people, a lot of these course creators, a lot of these people trying to sell you on like some deeper thing that they don't actually use themselves. Um, I think it comes from that. People are really sick and tired of that. Even on social media, you can see the performative men stereotype. For you to go down, we've probably seen people that look like this. They dress with the wired headphones for some reason. They have a cap. They pretend they're reading some book on like female literature, like some book on like feminism or something like that. It's so performative. We're plagued by this in society. It's so incredibly common, but I do see there is a small rise in people trying to be more emotional, allowing things to have space. And what I realize is sometimes that doesn't get always the most views. It's not always gonna have like, the crazy like 20 million views things. It's not always gonna be like, oh, this is so crazy. This is, I like you feel like you're on the edge of your seat every single twist and turn, but it's like music. If you think classical music, how it gets quiet, gets soft, and then it gets super loud. And that's a classic thing in storytelling. But now I feel like YouTube and Instagram and TikTok is just full of people being loud the entire time. So it just feels like a droning sound rather than appreciating it. It's just like the seasons. Would you really appreciate, summer, fall, and winter, spring if it was always hot? And I live in Texas, so I can say when it's hot a lot of the time, we appreciate winter so much more because of the fact that it's finally cool. But it's like spring, you're like, I don't really like it as much because it's really hot. Summer, it's just like it's really hot. Beginning of fall, the first half of fall for us is very cold. We don't really start experiencing fall until the very end of it or the beginning of winter, and people don't appreciate it as much because it's all the same. So think about it, like, are you making a difference? Are you allowing for people to cultivate their minds, to think deeper, to not explain every single thing? And last, I will just give a personal example. I've had my own YouTube videos on my own channel, and here's what I noticed. Actually, my most popular video, I would say, is a lot of room for interpretation. Learn to love your boring life. 1.6 thousand views. I know it's still small, but watch. I'm gonna continue growing and getting better. But it seems like, okay, learn to love your boring life. There's a question. It can be boring, and it might seem like, okay, trying to learn to love your boring life. But in the video, I'm not really gonna spoil. Well, it's not really spoiling. You can still watch it to see it for yourself, but it's almost like I just show you throughout my day, and it seems very mundane, and it's a bit boring at times. It's a bit, not super flashy, but it's talking about how to actually. I discuss how to actually learn from that and how that's some of the most growth happens in those moments. How some of the best things can happen when you just learn to love these mundane moments. I love this video so much. I didn't even expect it to blow up how it did, but it's finally cool to try again. Thank you, Timothy Chalamet. I talk about it, and I talk about how, Timothy Chalamet is really on a quest for greatness and pursuing this, but into the deeper thing of how Gen Z, my generation, is so, because I'm turning 20 this year, and my second year of college, I notice people are just, they don't try. They don't, like, trying is not cool. Even when I was little, I remember when I was in middle school, like, people are like, trying was looked down upon you. It's like, oh, you're a try hard. Like, really, like, that's an insult, which is so incredibly crazy. Some of the videos, they're just the most meaningful. And one video that I would say that I messed up on is this story. I'm building this character, and it's called Tenorio, and it's Portuguese. There's a whole meaning and all that behind it. But one of the things, I put subtitles in it, and I wish I didn't, because it was supposed to be really free. It's supposed to be really free with interpretation. But I was like, I don't know if people are gonna understand these deeper messaging, and now it feels like I'm trying to give this messaging with the titles. So I like half did, like the subtitles are, it's like it gives a little bit of meaning, but it doesn't give the full meaning of what I meant for everything to be. But now I feel like it can be misinterpreted, like, oh, okay, this is what it's actually supposed to mean. When there's a lot more, there are a lot more deeper things within it. And I feel like it didn't really spoil it, but it could have been a lot better if I didn't add that. So give room, learn to question things, enjoy having discussions, talking about things deeper, just like Steezy Kane, Isaiah Shepherd. That's who I see now. I'm done being sad. All these different videos, they don't get as much video views as necessarily like the ones he did before with sneezing on people. But learn to package it. Learn to package the video differently. Put a different thumbnail, like a thumbnail that seems like, very clickable maybe, but it has a deeper story. And that's something that is my goal with my channel for this year and for the coming future, to learn to get a lot better at it. And some of the very best videos I've seen from him, like some of my favorite videos, um there's this one video. See, I think he put it in his favorites. It's called Whole Lotta Red in Public. It came off of making these songs in public that he went super viral for just singing like a song in public. And he did a whole entire video, and this album by Playboy Cardi came out, and he did it, and it became super popular. But inside of it, it was this whole entire story. And I'm not gonna spoil it for you. I think you should definitely watch it for yourself. But it packaged, like, it seems like something, and it has a lot of views. You can literally see, but it had so much deeper meaning because it was given space. So I think with YouTube, at least I can say for myself, I want to treat this more as I'm giving space for things to evolve, for things to have emotion, for you to think, to not just have everything explained to. And there's nothing wrong with explaining videos. I think, I'm still gonna make videos that have a bit more education and stuff like that. But I want to talk about deeper topics. I want to talk about things where you feel like, man, I didn't think about it like that. I feel like there's more room to talk about it. I want more comments like that. I want more comments that, can even challenge me on like what I'm even, saying, what, thinking about my opinions on it. I want more of that. And I think that's how we're really going to level up more as a generation. If you begin to have more conversations, begin to question more things, talk about things deeper, and not just have everything just directly stated to us. I think those are some of the best videos, some of the best art, some of the best music. I think that is what we need more of. And I know that's not necessarily gonna, always get the most views. That's why I'm perfectly fine with trying to get a job currently, like creative direction and video editing and video production. I'm looking for internships and stuff like that, to get and to move into that, so I can, continue to build this YouTube channel, because I really want it to be like that. Because I remember when I was a kid, I was like, I wanted to be like YouTube. Not maybe a little kid. I think I was like 14. No, I was thinking I was like 15 when I was like, oh, YouTube actually. No, 16. I think when I was like, YouTube's actually pretty cool. Um, and like this might be a career, but now I'm just like, I would rather it take, some years. I really build a strong community and I build something so much deeper. And it's not to say that, getting views and, chasing analytics isn't necessarily bad. It's just different versions of what you call success. It's different wants, it's different desires for what you want to be known for, what you want people to take away from you. So remember, purpose over pleasure. I love each and every single one of you. And you can watch one of these videos over here. This one is the Timothy Chalamet video. You can watch it right at the top here. And this one over here is the Learn to Love Your Boring Life. I'm gonna be doing more in that video diary series, so definitely subscribe and stay tuned to that. Like and comment as well. That definitely helps the channel, helps me, and share it with a friend or whoever think might enjoy this kind of conversation or these topics. All right, so love you, share. Bye.